Okay, like I was saying, about humanity moving into its final course, into its end. What trajectory are we on really? Are we just coursing in through this life, just looking into like some of these entertainment and seeing how they are making a difference in the movie industry? But how about reality? And there are people that have already considered, how can you be a hero to your neighbor? And of course, Jesus taught these things. And in the Bible, it even said there that, you need to esteem others better than yourself. And Jesus definitely esteemed others better than himself, even when he was on the cross. Oh, I'll tell you what, I don't know any way you can be more lonely than Jesus being high up there on the cross, just high up, lifted above the ground, and, bleeding profusely and slowly and painfully dying. And if that was me, of course, it would be just it would be just a knee-jerk reaction to just think of myself. But Jesus did not that. He even talked to his mother. Mary was at the bottom of the cross, and one of the disciples was there, and he was talking to him, telling him to, just exhorting him to take care of Mary, until her old age. He was so concerned about Mary's condition, and also the condition of that disciple, telling him the importance of honoring your mother, and also honoring someone older than you and what you can do for them. And see, Jesus made that difference, and he's made a difference in my life before, and he's still continuing to do it. And I do not know any other altruistic thoughts that someone can make other than that, when you're in the middle of dying. And of course, you see, Jesus became a hero while he's in the middle of death. And you usually see heroes in the movies, become a hero, by them putting a demise on the villains and them remaining alive. And yet, with Jesus, he triumphed over death. He triumphed over the devil. He triumphed over the enemy. Back in the Garden of Eden, when the first sin was committed, because it was inspired by Satan, Jesus told Satan that, he prophesied, saying that, his head is going to be crushed. It's saying that the devil is going to bruise his heel. Well, yeah, that happened on the cross. But for the enemy, his head will be crushed on the ground. And when it's crushed, that's when he's gone. Oh yeah, the head is the most important part of the body. Yeah, it gets crushed. Oh, you're dead. And that's a prophecy right now that's going. That's still happening. The enemy's in the business of getting crushed, and Jesus is in the business of not only multiplying his workers in his kingdom and in his vineyard, but he's also in the business of multiplying more and more of his people, those who are making a difference for his cause. And right now, if you are part of that, if you are part of this movement, his movement, I'm not talking about a religious movement, just the movement that Jesus has started, in rallying a bunch of people who are loyal to him, who are wanting to do his work, I will tell you now, yes, you are in the business of becoming a hero, but of course, do not think of yourself as someone who is great, even though, because Jesus already said, greater things than these he will do. He's going to do, whoever follows him, they will do greater things than he did in the earth, right? And so, yeah, he already said it. You don't have to, you can remind yourself that, but if you're in the business of making a difference for him, of course, you're not the one who enlisted yourself. The one who enlisted you is God himself. Jesus did. And in the book of Timothy, when it said that no one who competes in a race entangles himself with no one who's in battle entangles himself with the affairs of this life, lest he be distracted. And of course, if you're in that battle, Jesus, hired you and conscripted you, to be one of his troops. And of course, I know this is a difficult journey. Yeah, I've experienced difficulty in this journey too, and a lot of times I am under attack and the scars are still with me. And yet, another thing, when Jesus died for the church, his people, the church is the body, not the building. Yeah, the body. This body of believers, he has united them together because he prayed to the Father that they will all be one, just as he and the Father are one. And when you have that oneness, that unity as a whole, yes, you are being one unit, a comprehensive unit for him. And you have all these helpers, and they're experiencing the same struggle that you're going through. And of course, now, if everyone is struggling, and of course, how can they contribute to the cause and the improvement of the other. Well, of course, in the Bible it said that Jesus is the head of the body, and the head of Jesus is God. And so you have the head because you're just the body, right? And you will be alive as long as you have your head. You will remain alive, and as long as you have your Jesus, He's the head, and He is alive, and He's making you more alive, and He's furthering up your sanctification process. And that's the reason why He hooked up His people together. Yes, not only to be a hero to the world, but to become a hero to each other, because He's your hero, and every one of us are in the business of becoming making a heroic rescue for our brother and sister in Christ. You know, they are here to give us our support when we are down, when we're downcast. Yes, they can rise us up again. And when the Bible said no other foundation can be laid than that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ. Yes, as long as you have that foundation, you know, He said, take heed how you build on it. If Jesus is that foundation, you will be impossible to destroy. You know, Jesus talked about it. You know, if a house has a foundation, a big tidal wave can sweep over it, and it's not going to be destructed. Yeah, that's how it is. I mean, think about the biggest earthquake that have happened in history, and the biggest earthquake, the next biggest earthquake that could happen, it will not destroy you. Yeah, even if it kills you, it's not going to destroy your soul. I mean, that's how formidable you can be. And right now, the enemy himself is really afraid. That's why he's coming after the believers. He's afraid of what they can do for Jesus. You know, he doesn't like Jesus. You know, him and Jesus are enemies. That's why he tempted Jesus. Remember, he tempted him to have, you know, all these... he tempted Jesus to have self-esteem. He told him that, you know, if he if he jumps out of that cliff, it's going to prove that he really is the Messiah. And so what's next? You know, that kind of self-esteem is just allowing you to be looked at by people. And of course, if people look at you, you know, that's not really becoming a hero, because, you know, God is the main hero here, and the work that God is doing for you, yes, it's going to be unproductive if your heroic attempts just points itself to you. And of course, you don't want to do that. Jesus didn't want to do that, and He even refused to turn the stones into bread, right? Even though He had the power to do so. And you can see, we are at war here. You see, we are at war, and that's another very famous line that I heard from the Avengers, is that they are at war, and we are at war here in the spiritual realm, in this real life. That's the real war that's happening. More serious than the war that's going on in the Middle East right now. Oh, you think crisis in the Middle East is serious? You know, think about all the crisis that's going on in the heavenlies. You know, Jesus is still, you know, he's battling, and He's calling his people to battle with Him. And if you're struggling, you know, that's really a compliment, because your struggle is going to mature you later on. It shows you how to be stronger. You know, when I fall, I take that as an opportunity to rise back up again. I will not allow my downfalls or my mistakes or my weakness to cast me down, because the enemy can just use that. You know, Satan himself can just use that to make your thinking more morbid, and to, you know, totally negatively introspect within yourself about how bad you are, or how poor you are, how pathetic you are. But really, you know what? You are really that adroit and robust if you have the grace of God. And no matter how much you fall, you know, God is able to blot out all your mistakes from His book. And that's exactly why we are called to do a teamwork here. And of course, even in Christian circles, I know it's not perfect. Of course, there are some ways that you can be maybe at conflict with one another at some points, and I've had that experience. But hey, you know what? You know, if you really are in Christ, you know, there has been times when even conflicts like that later on, when a relationship gets restored, it becomes even more stronger than the next one. Because, you know, one thing that you do not want to do is, you really do not want any conflict to totally ruin your testimony amongst the group of believers that you are trying to function as. And I must continue it in another video because the tape is running out.